How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am the curator for the Golden Age, and this is another
Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
Yes, this is Lost Heroes of the Golden Age.
What are you wearing?
Oh, this is my adulting 1 out of 5 stars, would not recommend.
Preach, brother, preach.
Yeah, seriously.
What in the world is this?
We're doing, X the Phantom Fed.
You don't do detective heroes.
Yeah, I don't normally cover detectives, that's true, but there was a caveat for this one, which made me want to cover this. The thing about the Phantom Fed is he didn't have too many issues, which was a little disappointing, because I would have liked to have seen where they would have gone with this, even if the stories are a little... How do I say this? They don't flow as well as normal detective stories, and I think it was because of all the incorporations of him changing his appearance, because he was the man of 1,000 faces, and the fact that he had to constantly change what he looked like to fit the narrative of the story may have made them go a little bit longer than they needed to. Now, the idea of a superhero dressing up in an alternate identity or just putting on a disguise so that you can get access to areas that you wouldn't normally have, or get information that wouldn't be released to the public that you would be able to get, is not an unusual concept. What made this one a little more unusual is he was the Phantom Fed, which means he worked for the FBI. That was a little more unusual. Even though he only had 5 appearances, that was an unusual enough concept that I wanted to cover. Now, he wasn't extremely popular. He only appeared for a few issues because I don't think that they properly knew where they wanted to go with this guy. Now, I do mention in the opener that he was in Surefire Comics and 1 issue of Lightning Comics. Now, in Surefire Comics, he was mentioned on the cover, and he only ever had 1 appearance on a cover, which was Lightning Comics #1, where he was appeared with a number of other people who were going to appear in the issues. Now, even though people like The Raven and Marvo the Magician did move on, this would be the only appearance of the Phantom Fed in Lightning Comics. So let's go over and cover this. Slightly interesting, but wasn't around long enough to make a huge impact. X the Phantom Fed. X the Phantom Fed. X, real name unknown, first appeared in Surefire Comics #1, 1940. The publisher is Ace. He's created by Unknown. Well, the wiki page says he's created by Unknown, but if we go to his very first appearance, under his title name, it says by Brand House. Now, besides House, the TV show, I've never known anybody with the last name of House, but we'll go ahead and do that. Now, the whole thing about Phantom X is there were a number of detective stories and feds in the 1940s, even going into the 1950s, and the caveat for the Phantom Fed is that he was a master of disguise. Now, he wasn't a detective, he was an FBI agent. Now, I know that they briefly showed his real appearance in the first issue, but he never went by his real appearance. He dressed up as other people so he could infiltrate places that he needed to be to get the information that he needed so he could solve cases. Now, there are technically 5 appearances of the Phantom Fed. All issues of Surefire Comics, which is weird because in Surefire Comics #3, there is Surefire Comics 3A and 3B. They are both titled #3, but the stories in each one of them are completely different comics. I've looked at A and B. They're not the same. The story in 3B, though, seems to kind of divert from the rest of the stories, though. He's still the master of disguise and has smoke pellets, but it didn't seem to follow the same trajectory as the other stories. Now, his last appearance would be in Lightning Comics Volume 1, #4. And Ace had a weird thing about this. The reason that it's #4 is Lightning Comics picked up where Surefire Comics left off. And it even says that on the cover of Lightning Comics #1. But that would be his last appearance, where they really upped the ante of that story. But taking down, he had like I guess you could call it an arch nemesis in the first one, a masked terrorist. And the rest of them were pretty much your basic detective stories of taking down crooked bankers or people trying to cause... Let's see, there was these people in a gorilla suit that was trying to cause an infestation into a town. It's your basic detective stories, but there's only 5, so they didn't really get to go into it as much as would like to have been seen. There's not too horrible much to go into. There's no origin story. There's no real ending to it. It just stopped. So let's go ahead and cover the first appearance, and you can see what they might have been going for when they first brought him on, but it didn't seem to follow that format much after the first time. X, the Phantom Fed, Man of a Million Faces by Brad House. Ambassador of Doom, meet X, the Phantom of the FBI. Follow him through thrill-packed adventures. He fights single-handedly against sinister lords of crime. This man of a million faces has developed the art of disguise into an exact science. Not even his few intimates have seen his real face, and no one has penetrated his disguise that can fool anyone except death. I really don't like the fact that they put not even his few intimates. They could have said people that know him are closest to him. Anyway, the story begins in the secret den of the Green Mask. Now, the Green Mask is having a discussion with his henchman, I guess. And he's talking about how a shock ray has been developed. This shock ray can paralyze whole divisions of men. We must get the blueprints from the U.S. Army. Once it is in our power, we rule the armies of Earth. Well, kinda, I guess. So he's going into details about how the Senate Subcommittee is meeting to vote. The blueprints are in the hands of Captain Nelson. And down here, Captain Nelson has been told that they are not going to proceed with the shock weapon, or shock ray as a war weapon. And he wants to see the blueprints destroyed. So he walks away to go ahead and complete the task, and then he is knocked out from behind. It says the captain is felled by a critical blow from behind. Okay. Then the murderer removes the precious papers and disappears into the night. So they're signifying it now that the captain with the orders is dead. A few hours later, New York, a fast roadster comes to the screeching stop behind the airbase at Mitchell Field. A tall man, muffled in a heavy coat, leaps from the car and is walking towards the plane. So we are going to, let's see, this might be the same guy. The ship tears into the field and leaps into the night sky at destination Bowling Field, Astoria, D.C. Okay, so I'm guessing the guy in the trench coat here is X. Mr. Pond, I was told to meet you here when you landed, but first, if you don't mind... yes, Saunders, I forgot you wouldn't recognize me. Here are my papers. Okay, so he's just responding to X as Mr. Pond because he doesn't know who X is, and he is... he's being the driver for him. Now, as they pull away from the airfield, we see another figure who is hiding out, makes a phone call. And just as Saunders exclaims that it's a nasty night, they notice a car had split off to the side of the road, and as they go to talk to what seems to be the driver of the car, he sprays gas into them. And let's see, Saunders, get out of the car, my eyes. And they get jumped by a whole bunch of hooligans who knocks down Sanders and puts a bag over X's head. And for a moment he struggles, but the strange oriental odor fills his nostrils and he slowly sinks unconscious to the wet ground. Okay, when he wakes, he finds himself and Saunders in a strange room. So the mask confronts both of them. Saunders apparently has papers that the mask needs to complete his plans, but he knows who X is. Now, as he's questioning the two men, he's going into a bit of exposition here. The papers which you so carelessly failed to destroy has saved you some unpleasantries. You are expected to perform a great service to your country. Now, he talks about how you're not going to get any information out of me, and there's a chair there all of a sudden. Let's see. You were to take X to a certain place, and now you will now give me the address. Now, X wants him to talk, to spare him from, being hurt, but Sanders doesn't want to talk. So he scratches his arm with these claws, and then he sprays some sort of chemical in there, and the chemical, let's see, a slow change comes over Saunders' face as he begins to ride in the steel bracelets that hold him, trying to tear himself loose. Cold sweat pours from his brow, and the pain is etched in every line of his face. And because of the excruciating pain, he says that he'll talk, and he gives him the address. You're a fool. Your death will be a lesson to X. And then the powder that he put into his arm, he throws into his face, and he falls dead. Because, if that just did it to his open arm, you can only imagine what happened to his face. Now, they all leave, and they actually leave X alive for whatever reason. I mean, the guy in the green mask says, you are known to me, yet he leaves X alive. I mean, if I knew he was a Fed and I knew his secrets, I wouldn't have kept him alive. Alone, except for the still form of Sanders, X plots to escape. With his teeth, he plucks a small file from the lining of his coat. See? He gets a file from his coat. Now, he uses the file to free himself from the cups, and then he draws a set of chromium tools from his lingering pocket and attacks the lock on the door. Now, I can see why they probably wouldn't have found the file in the lining of his coat, but they didn't search his pockets to find this tool. It says the lining, the lining of his pocket. I mean, the tools would have seemed like it could have been obvious. The file could have been overlooked. So he finally gets out there and realizes that nobody's around and it's good. He hates leaving Saunders into the dungeon, but he can't do anything for him now, so he contacts the offices, and he tells them that Sanders is dead and that there's a mission to be done. A few minutes later, X enters a room in an old brownstone house. He opens the roll-top desk and speaks softly into the microphone. So he gets a rundown on what's going on. A couple of people have been killed, and important papers have been lost that would be to the sacred, the loss from a terrible threat to the safety of the country. Okay, he wants to know what kind of investigation he needs to do. It's a delicate matter. That is, you were summoned. Why you were summoned? 3 senators were in a room. Blackwell, Dasham, and I can't pronounce that last one. Dasham is a friend of Nelson's. He would be the most likely to know about the captain's movements. One more thing, Captain Nelson has been seen in the company of Lily Dorma. Investigate her also. Do all you can to recover the plans. Stand ready to give your life if necessary. That is all, Agent X. Now, him being contacted by the agency like this doesn't seem to be anything in the other stories. So he starts working on his makeup to make himself look like Captain Nelson. And he says he better gets up before his friends show. I don't know the whole thing behind that. They don't explain it. So he hails a cab and he gets brought down to the senator's house. As somebody opens the door, is Senator, hey, what's wrong? What's going on here? There's been a robbery, and you better see for yourself. So X enters into the facility, still dressed as Captain Nelson, and goes over to the body and starts to investigate. He suffered a stroke of some kind. Has anyone sent for the doctor? Then the senator's daughter shows up and says that she sent for one as soon as she saw her dad like that. And then as he's addressing her, two people show up. Dr. Stoll, hurry, Dad's dying. Doctor, huh? I've seen this other bird before. I got it. Inspector Clyde of Washington Police. So they're going around and they're trying to tell what's going on. The daughter is too emotional, so Susan Backwell, the friend of Valerie's, my father is also a senator, and she goes into all the explanation that we need to know that she found him slumped on the chair and that the papers were gone. And I'm guessing this is the address where X had to go, because these are where the papers would have been for all the blueprints that he needed to destroy. Now, there are other guests in the senator's house, and the inspector wants to know who they are. And the X is like, well, good, now I don't have to question these people. It will look less suspicious. This is Lily Dorma of New York, Budapest, and Washington. And this is Sam Barkley. You must know him. He's a famous sportsman. So they asked the doctor if he's found anything. He says it seems like a stroke, and he'll send him upstairs. And X notices a tiny mark on his neck. He said it's already swelling, and he says that he probably picked himself with a pen, which makes absolutely no sense. How are you going to prick yourself with a pen on the back of your neck? Now, the blonde who gave us all the explanation said that he had been writing, and she wishes that she can say, but she has to get home. X decides that he's going to leave too, and he excuses himself. So he follows the blonde. His suspicions aroused by Susan's abrupt departure. X has decided to visit the Blackwell home. And this home looks extremely run down. If her father's a senator, shouldn't they be in a mansion? Anyways, X leaps to the ground as he hears a projectile aiming towards him, and it looks like it's a dart gun. Pretending to be unconscious, X watches as four figures appear in the darkness. Make sure he's dead. Now, X knocks out all... He doesn't knock them out. He defeats all the bad guys, and they go running off. And it says a blowgun and a poison dart. And this must have been what they used on the senator at the house that he was just investigating. So he goes over to the mansion, which looks more like a mansion on the inside. And he gets in, and he starts overhearing the it's impossible, Susan, impossible. I never should have told you about the ray, but you might as well know. The plans were stolen a few hours ago, and the son is agitated. And he tells the son basically, shut up or you're going to go back to the sanitarium. Your son was in a sanitarium? Okay. So he says he doesn't want any interruption for the senator's party tonight. So X decides to get a new costume and show up. And he arrives as the ball as Rafael Sancho, a wealthy South American who's interested in government affairs. And this is where he gets invited by Betty. She's an investigative reporter, and she can get him in there. As they are attending the party, so he can try and hear what's going on, smoke is released, and everybody starts to fall unconscious. His muscles paralyzed by the powerful fumes. X watches helplessly as the intruders rob the guests. Now, they rob all the guests, and they kidnap the girl. 30 minutes later, I decided not to go. My son was ill, and now my daughter's kidnapped. You've got to tell the truth, Senator. I know your son killed Nelson and stole the plans. And so it was this senator's son who killed Nelson and took the plans because he was trying to sell the plans to pay off his gambling debts. But I'll do anything. I hid the plans, but tonight the green mask forced me to give them to him. So he's giving up the plans and sending them to the green mask. And he found a card at the party, which this is kind of felt like Deus Ex Machina, which led him to James Dorr, the Undertaker. And he says, "Oh yes, I know about this. We delivered a coffin to Miss Dorma. I don't know you were picking it up." Lily Dorma? Listen, Dorn, Give me the whole story right now from the start. He said that Miss Dorma ordered a coffin sent to her home in the suburbs. Someone else did the embalming. The body should be shipped tonight. So he figured out that Lily Dorma, who was connected to the captain, and the captain was holding the plans, got this coffin and it's being shipped out. So he finds the train that the coffin is being shipped on, and he jumps onto it. X races on the top of the train. Why do they have to put baggage cars in the front? So he gets down to the last baggage car, and he opens up the coffin and finds the senator's daughter is in there, and she's been drugged. And as he brings her out of the coffin, she starts to revive. Listen carefully. This is my only chance to get these fiends. I'm going to take your place. You hide, and when the train stops, go to the nearest policeman. He'll see that you get home safely. But Captain, that's dangerous. They'll kill you. They're desperate men. So X goes into the coffin and takes her place so he could surprise them. And what he didn't realize is that there was still drugs planted in the coffin, so it actually knocks him out. And then he revives on the boat. Very clever, X, but your gallantry has made you my prisoner, and those plans you sought were hiding right beside you in the coffin. Green Mask, and I see the girlfriend is with you. You're right, but you won't be with us for long, Agent X. So, I don't, it looked like he was tied up or something, but I guess he wasn't. So he leaps towards the Green Mask and knocks him down, and then grabs Lily and says, "You're coming with me to the radio room," and he knocks out a guy, and somehow she gets shot. I mean, the only gun that went off was the one that the Green Mask was holding, but it went up in the air, so I don't see how she got shot. Okay. Outside on the deck, the maddening Green Mask and his melee are shooting through the door. Maybe that's how they did it. They shot through the door and they got her. Okay, so as he gets into the communication room, he sent out a secret code. I missed that part. And then he says, "If you guys come in, I'll give you a lead bath." So she says that she's going to go ahead and tell him who the Green Mask is. His mother was foreign, his father American. Because his father deserted his mother, she taught him to hate all Americans. He's and she dies. And just then the Navy bombers show up. They must have been like at a nearby port to show up that quickly. So X makes it out of the room and grabs the mask, and they both leap into the water as the boat explodes. And you can see a fiery wreck right here. It's awesome. So they bring the Green Mask on, and I'm going to read these last couple sets of panels. So you sent the code message. Who's the bird? That's what we'll find out right now. Sam Barkley, if you don't remember who he is, he was mentioned briefly, ever so briefly, back near the beginning when they introduced Lily. Yes, but you fools will never take me alive. Putric acid, I think he says. He's dead. We're rid of the spy and murderer, but these papers are safe. But who the devil are you? Before the astonished officer can stop him, X seizes a parachute and makes for the door. This will tell you. You never made any indications that you guys were back in the air. X. Secret Agent X, the greatest of them all. What a man, and what an exit. What new adventures lie in store for X? He'll be back again next month to thrill you with new disguises and exciting adventures. They were entertaining. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a continuation of Ace Month. I have one more hero that I'm going to cover for this month. And I don't think I'm going to do another Ace Month after this. There might be a few leftovers in Ace that I will cover, but I think this will be the last Ace Month. So tune in next week where we'll do our last cover for the last Ace Month. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.